Part 3 of a new model is a further explanation of the proposed inclusive property development model designed for social and economic transformation. It is proposed as a government intervention in terms of the South African Economic Recovery Programme. Part 3 is about sustainability in general for development projects, and specifically how this model is designed to achieve the objectives of the recovery plan. The basic concept of this model is that it's designed for growth. So the question that we must ask is, do we want sustainability? Sustainability these days is viewed in quite a strange way, because when you look at the definition of sustainability, this is what it says. Sustainability, the ability to maintain a system at a certain level. Another good description of sustainability is the avoidance of depletion. Now, neither of those two descriptions actually are in line with what we want. We're not seeking any of those outcomes. What we're seeking is growth. The recovery program is based upon achieving growth. So all the things that have gone before that haven't achieved growth, we must just discard. Sustainability only results in the ability to continue. And if anything goes wrong and something unexpected comes up, then it ends in failure. So this event of COVID has proven to be such an event, and it clearly indicates an error in the design of current systems when you talk about sustainability, because all the existing systems have proven to be unable to maintain a level, and they've been unable to avoid depletion. And consequently, we have the situation now where we have raging, serious depletion of our entire national economy. And this is telling us we need a new design. So the next question arises, how do we design for growth? Well, these three simple models explain what is necessary. First of all, we have what's happening now and in the past. In terms of sustainability, if you achieve sustainability in terms of those definitions, all you get is a flat continuation line, no growth. Now, COVID has also taught most people about the meaning of the R value. And the R value is something that will determine growth. If there's no R value, then there will be no growth. And all of the existing and previous models have an R value of 0. There is no growth element built into the design of those sustainable systems. Okay. The second model shows you what would happen if there was a growth element built in that had an R value of 1. That would induce a linear growth into the design, and the outcome of that would be to achieve a linear growth. But if there's no growth model in it, it's not going to happen. This is like driving your car at 60 kilometers an hour and never changing and just going and going and going. That's model 1. If something goes wrong with your car, it's going to stop. Something goes wrong outside, you're going to have a problem. What happens now if you put your foot on the accelerator? That's what creates the growth. It's the action of acceleration. And that's equivalent to an R value. Okay, so when you build that R value in, you're going to speed up from 60 kilometers to 100 kilometers. Okay, it's that element that's missing. So if you build in an R value of 1, you will get that increase up to another level. And at that point, then it will go back to where it was before, maintaining at that level in terms of sustainability. But we don't really want that. We've got to look at model number 3, because this model that we're working with is all about growth. And it's about developing something that's self-sustaining, where growth is built in to the model by design, that will, just by the normal operation of the model, induce growth. Okay, so to achieve that, we need an R value which is greater than 1, because that creates inbuilt exponential growth. And the curve will go just like it's shown there, just by the natural operation of the concept itself. Now, guys, the important thing here is that if we don't do this, without doing this and without building this in at the planning level, it means we are planning to fail. So how do we build this R value into a system? Well, all aspects of that system must be designed to duplicate. And if they duplicate once, it's not enough. It have to duplicate more than once to get the exponential growth. So to be safe, our system must be designed to duplicate twice. And that duplication must occur inherently as part of the natural operation of the process. And that's why in this model, the mentoring teams and the training teams are the prime movers of the model, because that's where the R value will get created. And without those activities, self-sustained growth can never occur. So the responsibility for ensuring that the necessary growth generating activities are implemented is embedded in the prescribed activities of all the teams working with this model. So let us take a look at the various teams that operate within the model and see where the areas of responsibility are that determine what the R value outcome will be for each project. We'll start with the mentoring team, because this is the main one. The operation of this team has got the highest level of responsibility in achieving an R value more than 1. Monitoring, enforcing and reporting of the actual application of all the essential aspects that determine the R value in terms of human resources. That's the responsibility of the mentoring team, to maintain the final project R value at a level that ensures exponential growth. That's what the mentoring team is all about. The mentoring team must also understand that the outcome of the project will be determined by 2 factors. One is how many complete and functional new teams have been created during the project, and secondly, how many new projects have been identified by the project team and prepared for activation using the newly mentored people. A perfect example of this would be 2 new teams mentored during the project and 3 identified projects that are being prepared for commencement. So that's 2 new teams created by mentoring during that project term and 3 projects identified by the project management team and also prepared by that team for commencement. That's so that all of the mentored and trained people that are coming from the initial project can be dispersed and expanded from 1 to 3. Okay, now in that quest, the successful commencement of 1 such new project by the mentored people and 1 project for continuity, that would only constitute a linear movement, a linear growth, because it only has an R value of 1. So we need more than that. This mentoring team must ensure that there's enough human relationships and human resource growth within that project so that 2 projects can be developed by mentored people and one continuity project would be done by the existing team. So you get 2 new projects plus 1. That would constitute exponential growth, and it would have an R value of 2, and that would comply with that 3rd diagram on the previous slide. So this is the goal and the target and the objective of the mentoring team. At local level, the mentoring has 2 activities. There's 2 levels of responsibility. One is the local authority. Local authority mentoring team again will comprise of 5 people with the correct mix as described previously, and the team will monitor the constituency of all project teams that are operational within the local authority area, because there could be many projects operating, each with their own internal teams, but they would all need monitoring by the local authority mentoring team. Additional teams may be developed within the local authority as the number of projects in the area increases. And liaison is strictly within with the project entity team of each new project. So local authority is liaising with the main project entity team, could be on many different projects. Now this happens through its internal structure, and the local authority teams report the mentoring status of all the projects on a monthly basis to national government. Internal monitoring within this team must be at a rate with an R value commensurate with the growth of the number of projects within the local area. So as that team starts with maybe one project, it's very easily to do, but as that project spawns new projects and ongoing, the monitoring necessity at local authority will increase, and how that increases, the R value of that increase in the local authority must be determined by the rate of growth of the actual number of projects out in the community. Second one is the project internal mentoring team, again comprising 5 people with the correct mix, and this term monitors the status and enforces compliance of the constituency requirements for all human resources engaged within the project. So the local authority team is monitoring the project entity team. Project entity team is managing the project itself. And this team reports through its admin officer to the project entity on a weekly basis, and liaison is from the project entity team with the training team, professional team, sales team, and that's a weekly reporting method. And also reports coming from all of the workforce, the contracted workforce that's operational on the project, the EMEs, the SMEs, the co-ops, all engaged on the site. There must be a weekly report coming back from them verifying the status of everybody working there. The internal mentoring team on the project must reach a growth rate, an R value of 2. So let's take a look at the training team. Now the training team, this is the entry level for the workforce, the trainees and the people who are being mentored coming into the program at a training level. So there's a lot of important things have to go on here. And the training team has responsibilities that include ensuring that each learner understands many things. Part of this is theoretical and part of it is practical. So its role is to make sure that all the learners understand their roles within this system, that the learner understands its responsibilities to the project in particular and to the program as a whole. And it must understand that the mentoring agreement that they will sign is a legally binding document. It must understand that its progress will be monitored and measured as the work goes on. This keeps them on track and in line with doing what they're doing. And the training team mustn't let that slip. Letting things slip gives bad results. The new people, the learners coming into the program, they must learn that workplace safety is paramount in every single thing they do every single day. They mustn't let that slip. And also, for me, they must understand that participation in this program is potentially a life-changing opportunity. And when they take that, they must understand that it's the start of a road that could really change everything in their lives if they follow through in the correct way. So also, the training team responsibilities include other things. At a personal level, those people in that team must mentor 2 new trainees, because this is about creating the R value. If they don't do that, it's not going to happen. So they're also responsible for basic theory and practical skills training in all trades for the entry-level learners. Also, the learners, they must learn the basic worksite training. This is not theoretical now, this is practical stuff. They're going to be go through a practical training, then they're going to come into the workplace where they have, before they get there, they have to understand that getting into that work site is a very different environment. And the training team must be responsible for preparation of the worksite activity itself with a designated mentor. So the learner is trained theoretically, practically, introduced to the site, introduced to the team it will be working with in whatever skill. And that preparation work is the responsibility of the training team. Now, this is a wide-ranging set of activities here, the training program. So the operational details of the training program and the scope of work for trainers can't be explained briefly here, and it's set out in a project training manual. Now let's take a look at the sales team. What sort of responsibilities are involved in the sales team? Now, sales team responsibilities include ensuring that every candidate understands all of those same things that we've spoken about for the candidates and the learners entering into the worksite program. Understand its role within the system, its responsibilities to the program. It must understand that the mentoring agreement in this arena is legally binding on the agent, who's the mentor, and the candidate, who is the learner. And that candidate, once it comes into this program, is going to be trained and monitored to become an estate agent. Not the worksite, an estate agent. Now, the progress of the agent and the candidate will also be monitored and measured in exactly the same way. If they go near the site, worksite safety paramount in everything they do. And again, and particularly for this, because these guys can come on here knowing nothing, and they can end up being professional people in a relatively short period of time. So they need to understand that the participation in this team, in this program, is got a very high potential of life-changing. Okay. Now the sales team responsibilities also include, back to square one, personal mentoring of those two candidates to the EEAB, Estate Agents Board, level of competency. That means that these new agents that are coming through this program can work anywhere in the country, in any agency all around the country, coming out of this program. So the sales team's also now responsible for the sales of the products of the project, the finished stock. Okay, so there's marketing and sales of the property stock created by the project. They need to do that in a professional and ethical way. The liaison with attorneys in preparation and conclusion of sale agreements and all of those little things that come up on the way, dealing with buyers and sellers and all the things in between. They have to deal with all that. A concept of important with sales of a project like this is pre-sales. How many of these sale units can be sold before they're even finished, sold off plan? So maximizing pre-sales is a very important area of responsibility for this sales team. Okay. Now also adherence to ethical standards at all times. Very important. You know, sometimes you hear bad things going on in this kind of arena. All that has to be avoided, because anything that tarnishes the name and the nature of this program cannot be tolerated. Also, there's the notion of commission. Now, in the marketplace, there's many different levels of commission for different things, but these agents, they must accept that the commission structure is going to be set by the project entity from the beginning, and it will form part of the agent agreement when they're appointed into the sales team. Now we're looking at the constructional aspects, the professional team. The professional team responsibilities include, number one, a principal agent acting on behalf of the project entity and monitoring the activities of the professional team. It involves overseeing the overall progress and outcome of the project construction works, the administration of the construction works, the administration of the budget and the expenditure ongoing as the project is progressing. It involves reporting now, the receiving of the weekly reports from all the worksite co-ops every single week. Weekly reporting to the principal agent. So the professional teams reporting to the principal agent, principal agents reporting to the project entity. Also, back to basics, personal mentoring of 2 new teams for 2 new projects. We're going to talk a lot about this a little bit later on. It's very important. R value needs to be 2. Also now, the responsibility of the professional team is to assist the project entity in the identification of 3 new potential projects local to where the main project is going on. Why 3? Again, that complies and it will result in an R value of 2. There'll be 2 new projects that could be manned by the people being mentored, and there's 1 project where the workforce for the existing team can move on to. So identifying 3 new projects over the period of time of the actual project term, that's done by the project entity, but they need assistance from the professional team in doing that. And then they have to assist in the preparation of those new projects for commencement. And that will be using all the mentored people. That would involve in all of the preliminary works with the municipalities, the preparation of the proposals, the development, seeking out what needs to be done in terms of rezonings and amendments, so that a model could be placed to the local municipality so that they can agree on the commencement of those following projects. R value of 2. Now, the mentoring of persons for the professional teams must be done in accordance with the requirements of the relevant professional bodies in the country, which could be SACAP, ECSA, the quantity surveyors and the project management associations, etc. And candidates for this may be drawn from the universities, from the TVET colleges, or for qualified people who are out there already unemployed in the marketplace. They can be brought into this program at this level on the route to them becoming professional people. In terms of achieving exponential growth, the workforce co-op may be considered as the practical training ground. Workforce co-ops have responsibilities, and they include the overseeing of the overall progress of learners in the mentoring program. In that regard, the learners are supplied to the co-ops by the training team. Workforce co-ops must accept without hesitation all learners supplied to them, irrespective of race or gender or any other aspect. They must accept that the learners may be relocated to other mentors by the project entity for the benefit of the learners. The workforce co-ops need to embed good work practices into all of the learners. They must look at the safety aspect and as a paramount at all times while learners are engaged with them during work activities. To do with reporting, all the co-ops need to report to the mentoring team every single week. Progress with the mentoring is very important. These responsibilities are embedded in the supply contract that the co-op will enter into with the project entity, and these activities are those which will affect the R value of the project. Now, workforce co-ops have benefits. Workforce co-ops obtain ownership in the property cooperative established by the project entity, and that ownership provides residual wealth extending beyond the project period. It is additional to the income earned from the project, and it is conditional on fulfilling the mentoring responsibilities of the co-op during the project. The property co-op is a business member entity. It's a member business entity owned by the members, and it's designed for continuing short, medium term income and also for longer term asset development for each of these co-ops and the members of the workforce co-ops after the project is finished. In fact, it is an empowerment product of the project. And now we come to the main management team, the project entity. And this is the seat of project responsibility. The project team responsibilities include overseeing the overall progress and outcome of the entire project in general, from inception to completion. They need to establish the mentoring and training of the sales teams. They need to appoint the principal agent and accept the nomination of the professional teams. They need to establish and administer all legal contracts necessary for the operation. They need to coordinate the introduction and movement of the trainees within the construction works. An ideal situation is where people being mentored can move from one kind of operational skill to another, and moving and changing within that gives a broader range of education and learning for those people. The team must also establish and enforce the disciplinary code for the project. Very important. They must enforce that. They must receive weekly reports from all aspects and all teams and all entities operating within the project on a weekly basis. And they must report on a weekly basis to the local authority teams. Okay. Also, back to square one. Personal mentoring of 2 new teams. Each member of this team, there's 5 of them, they must make time to personally mentor 2 new teams, 2 new people, each creating 2 new teams by the end of that project. Now, this is a high-level team, and it's full of professional and experienced people. Mentoring in this area, it opens up the door to some phenomenal things for many people out there. We've got young people, young professionals coming from universities. They have no work. We've got people in queues with the Black Management Forum, with the NYDA. Those can be brought in at this level so that the management of major projects, starting with small to major projects, can be done within the limits and the bounds of this model. Here's important things, guys. Number 10, identification of 3 local projects, and they're going to do this in conjunction with the members of the professional team during the process. This is important, and the preparation of those new projects for commencement using mentored people coming from this particular project. Now here's something really exciting, and it is the establishment of a property cooperative. And this is for the distribution of the retained assets. Now, you may remember that the sales team are going to sell enough of these projects to cover the original costs and the money funded by government, and it's going to pay that back to the government. There's no developer here, and the profits that would normally go to developer are retained within this concept. They're retained by the project entity co-op. Now they can't stay there. They have to be dispersed into the community, and so the project entity co-op will establish a property cooperative, and the asset base will be relocated into that, and from there we'll go on. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. So in that regard, new projects may consist of spawned micro projects. And these spawn micro projects come from the activities connected to this property cooperative. It's a very exciting area of growth. This model introduces the concept of a member-owned property cooperative. The property cooperative is a necessary and it is an exciting component of this model. It provides all the necessary elements for both economic inclusivity and economic empowerment as described in the recovery plan. And it does this by creating an enabling business structure that's specifically designed to achieve both of those objectives. In fact, it is a vehicle by which the economic benefits of each project are spread into the local community, providing access to secondary income and long-term asset growth. The co-op has several functions. First of all, administration of the retained assets that are transferred from each project. 2, to increase the value of those retained assets for all of its members. Number 3, it is a trading entity and it will be trading in the property market. as a co-op business entity on behalf of its members. Number 4, it creates the development of spawned micro projects in the local community. Micro projects are very, very interesting. Most of development that goes in local communities are micro projects, and if those can be identified and developed through the property cooperatives, it brings all the community together. And number 5 is enabling participation by its own members in the expansion of its own business, which is the property cooperative, for their personal interests. The property cooperative is not a passive entity. It is designed for growth in terms of their requirement model. The operational details of the co-op will be published on its own website for use by its members, and also to provide marketing information that the members can use out to the general public. The main underlying motive of the government economic recovery plan is economic transformation, and the property cooperatives are the practical vehicles of economic transformation. They operate at ground level, they are highly effective and visible in the local built environment. They absorb, utilize and create ownership for all the upskilled workforce mentored by the main projects. They're independent of government and they do not require funding. Shares in the co-op are used to reward the members of the fixed teams in the main project. The project team, mentoring team, training team and the sales team members and the participating landowner will receive at least 1 share each in the property co-op. They're also communal business entities and they're open to all people. They have an integrated facility for the support of the low-income subsidized owners within the main project, as we spoke about in the very first instance on part 1 of these explanatory videos. This is a very important support feature because it enables optional access to those owners, the low-income owners, to this co-op, to the business activity within this co-op in a simple and uncomplicated way, and is free of charge for those low-income subsidized owners within the main project. Property co-ops form a foundation structure for new EMEs and startups as envisioned by the government, by CEDA, CULA, National Youth Service, NYDA, etc. That's the drive of all of those organizations, and it's right here now in front of them. Property cooperatives have the ability to create continuous short-term, medium-term and long-term income for the members, and it can lead to generational wealth by virtue of ownership. This is genuine economic transformation. Economic inclusivity is a major aspect of the recovery plan. This model creates what we call spawned micro projects. The property cooperatives are designed to generate a linear string of very small projects. These are micro projects. In fact, most small businesses in communities are engaged on this type of work, and they present a fast-track opportunity for the upskilled workers coming via the main mentoring. Item 3 of the previous slide showed that the property cooperatives, one of the purposes of that is to create a trading entity which trades in the property market. This enables the co-op to acquire small residential properties to upgrade and sell using the mentor teams from the main project. Micro projects are turned over very quickly, generating contract income for the workforce and profit for the co-op, which now has become in fact a developer in the normal sense of the word. That profit is proportioned to the members as medium-term income, and to the co-op is retained as retained capital for the purchase of the next micro project. This creates a linear flow of micro projects within the co-op, the property co-op itself. These are called spawned micro projects, and they get to the heart of the community by their selection. They may be chosen in terms of need and desirability as well as profit, and they may promote regeneration within the built environment whilst providing a consistent linear source of employment and a growing asset base of ownership for the members of the co-op. Many micro projects will be spawned from each main project. Each micro project will need a full range of professional and technical skills, and the micro projects belong to the property co-op. They are not funded by government, they are self-funded by the property co-op. Now let us look at the relationships between the main project, the property cooperative, and all of the micro projects that are developed within the property cooperative. So here we have in the blue circle the main project, the prime entity that starts all of this lot going in the first place, like the one we described earlier in part 1. There's many of those around the country. So the main project starts going, it completes all its work, properties get sold off, some get retained, and they get retained within the main project entity. They can't stay there. They get transferred out from there, and they get transferred into the property cooperative, operational now, local to that main project. So the assets have been transferred now, and they're in a different cooperative. Main project people can go on and start something else, but the assets now remain in the property cooperative. It has got two elements. It's got the management and it's got the workforce. So the management area, you've got the same structure of management as in the main project, the same mix of people. What is its function? Its function is property development and trading in the property market. This is a business entity now. This whole property co-op is a local business entity owned by local people, and the purpose of it is to acquire properties, small properties for renovation. This is what we call the spawned micro project, and there can be many of these. They'll go from one to another all around that district area. Then you've got the workforce. Now, this workforce, these are not people that are contracted in from anywhere else. They're coming in as upskilled people coming from that main project, and they belong to this co-op now. They own this co-op. They've got their shares within this co-op proportion to them at the beginning from their participation in the main project. So now they're owners. The workforce are owners of whatever they do. What's their function? They make contract, they do building work, and they do contract on all of these micro projects that will be developed by the property cooperative. And the purpose of this is for those individual people to create more ownership, to get profit from their work, from their contracting work, and to develop income and ownership of the assets that will grow and grow and grow as every new micro project is purchased, worked on, and sold, and then the next one and the next one. And there is no limit to that, guys. There's no limit there. It can just go on and on and on in a linear continuation. This area is not a mentoring area. This is a work area coming from the mentored people of the main project. Okay. A property co-op is a builder-developer owned by its members who are working on their own properties with a common purpose of not just short-term income. Medium-term income comes from the sale of those properties by profit, and long-term wealth creation by ownership. Part 3 in this explanatory series of videos, A New Model, showed us how the exponential growth may be achieved by creating an appropriate structure that includes all the elements necessary for exponential growth. Part 3 showed us how the project model continues and survives the main project as a workable, independent business activity, the property co-op, to benefit the local workforce of the local community by creating new linear strings of micro projects. It's different because it needs to be different. It has to be a break from all of the things that are happening and have happened that don't give this outcome. It's designed specifically to achieve the stated objectives of the South African Economic Recovery Program and the current specific needs of a local community. Following this video will be part 4, which is about transformation, and it will show the operational detail of a property cooperative, how it's structured, how it's used for short-term, medium-term, personal income, and the creation of long-term wealth, and how the assets are owned and distributed within the co-op. And it will show how it can be scaled up for nationwide growth as a transformative development entity.